All right, so good afternoon, everyone, and good afternoon, Mr. Ako. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining us from all the way from Port Moresby. And I hope the weather is good. Here in Reading, it's fine, sunny, and very hot outside. So we'll continue on with our discussions on foreign policy. There are many issues that we've touched and many issues that we have looked into and discussed uh, through our discussions on Zoom and also during the consultation period. So for this session, we'll open the floor for questions and comments from the people, from our attendees, from the students. And Mr. once again has made himself available to take your questions and comments. So without further delay, I will call upon the first attendee, Philip, to start the session with his questions and comments. Thank you, Philip. Go ahead.
Uh, Thank you, Mr. Yegera, and good afternoon to everyone, Mr. Ako, Mr. Yegera, and my fellow Papua New Guineans. So, I have a few comments to share with you guys and uh, two questions. So, my first comment is I've been doing a little reading um, about Philip Mitner's work. My two comments are from his um, one of his book he wrote and in general. So my first comment is according to Philip Mitner 2018, he has noted the increasing number of transnational crimes, particularly the increased number of pirated and counterfeit goods and the increased number of illegal immigrants at the turn of the century. So it made him wonder if the increase in transnational crimes related to the government's look not policy back then, a less articulated foreign policy that focused on China and the rest of Asia. So Philip Midner's reasoning is well founded and presents a compelling hypothesis worth investigating into. So his observation regarding the increase in transnational crimes, specifically pirated or counterfeit goods and illegal immigrants at the turn of the century, can be logically linked to the China and Asia for several reasons. But like, for example, with the increased connectivity and trade routes, the Luknot policy inherently signifies a strategic shift towards increasing economic, political, and cultural engagement with China and the rest of Asia. So this means a significant increase in trade volumes, investment flows, and the movement of people within the Luknot policy country and Asian nations. So more legitimate traffic creates more opportunities and wider channels for illegal trade and movement. So therefore, Mita's wondering is not only reasonable but highlights a critical area for policy analysis. So how apparently positive foreign policy shifts can have complex and sometimes accidental consequences, including a potential worsening of transnational criminal activities. So my second comment is also according to 2018. So PNG as a loan aspired as long aspired to conduct foreign policy that is independent from Australia's influence, but this aspiration has been limited in part because PNG remains dependent on Australia. So the period under review has not observed the emergence of a more coherent foreign policy that can minimize Australia's influence in PNG. So political elites have evoked sentiments of nationalism and have deployed nationalistic rhetoric against perceived Australian dominance to justify PNG's independence and national sovereignty. So this statement it criticizes political elites for deploying national rhetoric against perceived Australian dominance to justify PNG's independence and national sovereignty. But note that the rhetoric is not translated into a current policy to downplay Australia's influence. So PNG needs to move beyond ordinary well-defined foreign policies that actively aim to minimize Australia's influence in areas where PNG seeks greater independence. So this policy should have clear objectives and implementation strategies rather than just being expressions of sentiment. So with the current foreign policy, PNG needs to shift from aspirational rhetoric and dependent relationships to build robust foreign policy frameworks and strong institutions that enable it to generally pursue an independent foreign policy that doesn't depend on Australia too much. Moving on to my third comment. One of our topics we talked about was about government pushing for privatization policies to stimulate economic growth and balance economy. So like we had discussed in our previous sessions. So basically, privatization policies are often advocated internationally, including within foreign policy discussions, as a mechanism to stimulate economic growth. So the underlying principle is that private ownership and competition can lead to better resource allocation and service delivery. So I did a little reading and research, and like I would just like to share my opinion saying I think privatization policy is not conducive for economic growth and development, especially in a weak regulatory environment like Papua New Guinea. So in saying that, the effectiveness of privatization is highly depending on the institutional environment. So in contexts like Papua New Guinea, where regulatory frameworks may be weak or underdeveloped, the intended benefits can be undermined. So like without robust and independent regulatory bodies, privatization can lead to increased cost of living for the citizens, example inflation, and when not regulated properly may lead to market failure. So therefore, the success of privatization, like for economic development, is basically can be linked to the strength and capacity of the regulator. Going on to my fourth comment, my fourth comment is in relation to topic 8, which is PNG connect to a globalized world. So Papua New Guinea navigates a globalized world through a practical multi-aligned foreign policy, which we knew back then was friends to all and enemies to none approach. So strategically, like located in a rich natural resources, PNG actively engages with both traditional partners like Australia and the United States and other countries with increasingly economic powerhouses like China also. So this balancing act allows PNG to secure diverse foreign direct investment, development aid, and market access from multiple sources. So, from my understanding, looking at how a foreign policy can play distinct advantage in a global stage, it prevents overreliance on any single nation of and safeguarding national sovereignty. So, by diversing its partnerships, PNG can negotiate better terms for its resources, full competitive offers for infrastructure development, and gain broader international support for critical issues like climate change. So this flexibility and transparency can pursue its national interests and development goals more effectively, adapting to shifting geopolitical dynamics while optimizing its economic and strategic position. So moving on to my question, I only have two questions to ask. So my first question is, so recently during the independence celebrations, the Australian Prime Minister Albert Albanese flew over to Port Moresby to sign a defense agreement that was initially called the Pukuk Treaty. However, the signing didn't take place. So my question is, Mr. In your opinion, do you think the Morocco government should have signed the treaty or says to avoid complete commitment to the treaty? So my second question is a follow-up question to that. I'm just curious, I'm just asking, is there a possibility that the Morocco government might send a delegate or someone over to China with the terms of the treaty or the Pukuk Treaty, so they can also review the treaty and have a say on this treaty? Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, according to media reports, today Prime Minister Marpe has sent the defense minister to China to explain the treaty. I don't know how that will pan out because this is a treaty between two other countries, and then you are sending someone to go and explain to the third country on what that treaty is all about is a very interesting, a very interesting form of diplomacy. So the risk we run now is that from tomorrow onwards, the attitude the attitude of the two original parties to the treaty will change, because a third party knows about it now, or knows a summary of it, or an update on it. But I think the bottom line is a third party knows about it now. I mean, that's my own personal point of view. So would this mean that it has to be reviewed again so that it can be done properly, or is there a possibility for PNG to have a tripartite security arrangement between Australia and China and PNG from a PNG point of view? And your comments based on the foreign policy and Dr. Mitna's paper got me to note this question down. Should our foreign policy be a foreign policy to depend on Australia? Should our foreign policy be a game plan that includes depending on Australia? Because it would seem that everywhere we turn, the presence of Australia is always there. So as strategists or foreign policy analysts, how do we come up with a foreign policy? Because you see, over the last decade or so, we've had calls saying we need to move away from our dependency in Australia, but it's not happening. It's not happening. So flipping the coin around. So forgetting that, should we now have a foreign policy that includes depending on Australia? And how will that pan out for us? On public media, we know of the details of the treaty, that it involves allowing both, well, according to the news reporters, I know, I haven't read into it, but according to the news I'm hearing, the Pupuk Treaty will enable both Australian and Papua New Guinean to join each other's forces. We will have to investigate the finer prints of the treaty to ascertain whether what the news reporters are reporting about is truly been interpreted or not. And I think that's where retired PGDF commanders Singirok and Ilau's commentaries on social media come true. Because both are saying there are constitutional implications. So the question comes back to online me. Did we? I mean, I am so. We've seen over the last 2 years of negotiating or drafting PNG drafting teams, including all the people who should be in those teams. They're working on the security draft treaties and all that. So I'm sure that all those have been considered, but in light of this week's events, we should be asking ourselves, has something developed in the last 10 days to warrant this cautious approach, noting very well that the ministerial forum, PNG Australia Ministerial Forum, is I think set for October in Canberra, and where based on the communique, the document will be penned. So that's how I would see it from afar. That we now have a third party being informed about the contents of a security treaty between two other parties. All right, Philip. I hope that answers both of your questions.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Philip. Thank you, Mr. Ako. We'll move on to Mac.
Good afternoon, Mr. Yeager and Mr. Ako. Firstly, I have 6 comments and 6 questions. But before I start with the comments, I'll just use my 2 comments on that particular topic where Philip just mentioned about the treaty. I think there's always 2 sides of this treaty. The positive side of the treaty is that this treaty strengthens PNG security by ensuring that Australia, a close neighbor and long-time partner, will stand by PNG in the event of external threat. It will also open doors for Papua New Guinea to gain professional military training and career opportunities in Australia Defence Force, which could improve PNG's own defense capacity since over 50 years, we don't have the capability in place. So originally, it positions PNG as a stronger player in the Pacific, showing commitment to collective security with a trusted ally, since Australia is one of our trusted allies since World War II. That's the good side of that particular treaty. So the negative side of the treaty is when Papua New Guinea entering into a formal defense treaty with Australia, it could raise concerns among other bilateral partners, especially like nations like China, Indonesia, or even Pacific neighbors who may perceive PNG as leaning too heavily towards Australia. And this could complicate PNG foreign policy by limiting its space for neutrality or friends to all enemy to none policy. There's also the risk that PNG might be drawn into Australia's strategic conflicts, which may not always align with Papua New Guinea's national interest. So there's always 2 sides of it. And what Mr. Akwa just said, that there's a third party involved. I mean, it's very, it's very like put Papua New Guinea in a position where we're trying to please both parties, which it was not supposed to happen. As like friends to enemy to none policy, it's time to PNG to take a stand. We have to choose instead of trying to impress or like try to serve the interest of other nations. It's time for Papua New Guinea to serve our own interest, what is important to us. So that's my comment regarding that particular treaty. And now to my questions and comment on week 9 and week 10 about Winty's policy and PNG Connect, Peter O'Neill, PNG Connect. So firstly, I'll start with Winty's policy. I have 2 comments regarding Winty on week 9 that Mr. Ako, you have presented to us about Winty's policy. So I'll start with a comment. I have 2 comments on that particular topic on Winty's policy. So firstly, I found it very encouraging how Mr. Ako, you linked Winty's foreign policy decisions to broader shift in global geopolitics, especially Asia rise in the late 20th century. My second comment on that is like the Winty's policy, the explanation of PNG depending on Australia before the look north policy helped me understand why Winty felt such policy it is important and was necessary at that time. Now to my questions, 3 questions regarding Winty's look north policy. My first question to you, Mr. Ako, is to what extent did Winty's look north policy truly reshape PNG foreign policy priorities, or did Australia influence remain dominant despite that shift? That's the first question.
Okay.
Uh,
You'll ask the second one as well, or
yeah, can I continue with the 3 questions and then you can answer the 2 of them?
okay?
All right. Okay, I rephrase the first question again. First question, to what extent did Winty's Look North policy truly reshape Papua New Guinea foreign policy priorities, or did Australia influence remain dominant despite the shift? That's the first question. The second question, in what ways does the Look North policy continue to influence Papua New Guinea current approach to foreign policy, especially in managing relation with China today? The third question on Winty's Look North policy, what lessons can Papua New Guinea future leaders draw from Winty's strategies when responding to today's global powers shift in Indo-Pacific region?
When we come to the third question, you'll have to repeat it, but I'll start with the first one. So, sorry, Sola.
That's the three questions for Winty's Look North policy, and also the three questions and comment for Peter O'Neill PNG Connect policy. We go by this one first.
Before I answer those three questions, while you were making your comments, I was also thinking, it sort of made me ask myself or ask us as a team here, what do we really want? PNG, what do we really want in terms of our foreign policy and IR? Because we seem to be passing the ball all over the place.
Yeah, that's true.
Sometimes we don't need to even kick it to our own, sometimes we're even kicking it to our own in-goal area too. Yeah. No, and this is compounded by the fact that the new foreign policy white paper that was supposed to have been released this week, which we all knew earlier this year it was going to be released on our 50th anniversary, is yet to be released. And my point is, if it was released, we would have understood why we stalled in signing the treaty, the Pupuk Treaty. It would have explained that. And just going to the questions, to what extent did Winty's foreign policy influence PNG's international relations? And has Australia remained dominant? I think I am of the opinion, of the very strong opinion, that Winty changed our international relations. Prime Minister Winty changed how Papua New Guinea played internationally. And it came at an opportune time. You see, it came at a time when Australia was doing its own strategic refresh internally and wanted to start refreshing its outward look and how it would sit. And secondly, it cut the aid money. So this helped. I think prompt would be a good word of using. This prompt the Winty government in saying, okay, since you are having issues of your own at the moment, we will look elsewhere. And once that happened, it enabled Papua New Guineans to policymakers then to stand on their own feet and start looking elsewhere. Yes, you see, they already had the foreign policy white paper of active and selective engagement, which was about 10 years old. So it was still fresh. Most of them would have been a part of that configuration. But whether in the 1990s we understood what a foreign policy was in the way we understand it is another question we have to ask. Because like I mentioned earlier on, when I came on board and when I started asking what a foreign policy was, even my branch heads didn't know what a foreign policy was. And maybe it was because of those fancy word of foreign policy. And after in the last couple of years, when we became mature and a big wiser, we realized that it's only another name for a game plan, which a country can use. So if this knowledge was shared in the Foreign Service Officer of the 1990s, it would have, I think, made our advancements in foreign policy in regional configuration more smoother and more effective. Noting very well that we must also understand the fact that in the 1980s and 1990s, got plenty money, got a master's degree. Master's degree was like what was like what PhD degrees to us is today. Not many people had master's degree back in the 1990s, so we could understand that the thinking capabilities and the understanding of a wider source of data information was very, very limited. But to answer your question, Prime Minister Wingti changed the face of PNG's international relations with his Look North policy. From 1975 up to the late 1980s, before the Look North policy came up, all our foreign policy were southbound focused, south focused. All of them focused, and why shouldn't be? Most of our budget was coming up from there. Our budgetary support was coming up from there. So obviously they would have a hand in seeing how we would play. When Winky's Look North policy came up, it made all our regional partners sit up and start viewing us with a different outlook, saying that now we have a country here who is not scared to say that they're going to look north and seek participation up there. So it comes to the second question. In what ways does the Look North policy affect PNG in managing China? See, when Prime Minister Wingti said Look North, all eyes went to China. We all assumed, or everybody then assumed, I think, that he was referring to China. But the North is a bigger space. It could be Northeast or Northwest, or was it North? No, Korea can be in the north. Both DPRK and ROK are in the north. You have Russia in the north. Japan is in the north. The Philippines, Malaysia in the north. Even the U.S. States are also in the north. So that made it a bit more generic, but people would have been assuming it meant looking to the north. So when Prime Minister Wingti's foreign policy of Look North came up, it also enabled PNG to push for becoming a member of APEC. So that was part of it. Okay, and once PNG joined APEC, it could answer your question by saying managing all those economies who were members of APEC up north, and that was all of them, apart from those ones in ASEAN like Laos and Cambodia. So all those others were involved, were member economies of APEC. Now, when to answer your question literally, when you say how did it affect PNG in managing China? It enabled PNG to attend APEC meetings and hold bilateral talks with China at the within the margins of the APEC engagements, and that enabled talks to happen and confusions and other issues to be discussed as equals. When we have bilateral visits, you can see the reason why bilateral visits happen not regularly, but every once in a while, because they cost a lot of money, and there must be a strong agenda to enable that bilateral visit to happen. But when in APEC, you see, APEC is held every year. For instance, in 2025, it's hosted in Korea is hosting APEC, and in November, all the APEC leaders will congregate in Korea, and they will have the APEC leaders meeting, and that means once the leaders go, then they have the opportunity to have bilateral meetings with each other. You see, and the next year again, China will host APEC, and leaders will congregate again in November to have the leaders meeting, which means bilaterals will happen. So when you're looking at how to manage our international relations in the region, APEC remains the only forum where our leaders, both the prime minister, the ministers, the foreign minister, the trade minister, and senior officials have that avenue to go and talk about issues away from here. You see, one of the if let's say the APEC leaders meeting was happening next week, PNG Prime Minister Marape has a bilateral now organized with Prime Minister Albanese on the margins of APEC next week. Guess what will be the main thing on the agenda? It will be the Puk Treaty. You see? So managing so the APEC fora enables leaders to go and talk about issues outside of economics. They enable leaders to go and talk about every issue of mutual interest under the sun during those bilateral engagements. Okay, so in answer to your question, yes, APEC was one of the ways which PNG's Look North policy enabled it to manage its international relations with all those economies up in the north. Now you'll have to repeat the third question to me. I was not able to record it.
Okay, the third question is, what lessons can PNG future leaders draw from witness strategies when responding to today's global power shift in Indo-Pacific region?
Those lessons must also be supported by accompanying policies. Because lessons are lessons, but we can't take them for granted. No. So again, let's use this year's international events. Let's say I don't want to use the example of the Puk Treaty. The fact that Prime Minister Manale in the Solomon Islands how do I Prime Minister Manale provided an alternative way of meeting with development partners outside of the PIF leaders engagement. Okay, so these are the lessons we have to learn, that there is an international system. There are international meeting protocols. There is an international agenda on everything. There is international agenda on climate change, on urbanization, on rural urban drift. Those are UN centric agendas. Now, the lessons PNG future leaders can take, my advice on that would be refer back to our own domestic game plans, the MTDP4, the foreign policy white paper, and then based on those rules listed in or the protocols listed in those policies, we approach those international activities. That's how I would look at it. Because, for instance, this week during the hosting of the leaders here in Mosby, certain departments had university students as interns and never trained them. They just told them, go sign up na meet him all. How do you expect a university student who's not trained in foreign policy or the arts of diplomacy or protocol to go stand there and do what? Those are the lessons we have to learn from, and those can only come if there was a training manual, or 3 weeks ago, those particular departments would have called a 1 week training for all the interns and said, this is how you do it. When the leaders come, you approach them and say, ma'am, or say, or excellency, all those things. We don't just expect to get them go sign up lo kim numbers na soy mo sem mi blagat plenty airshas lo welcome you lo hotel. You need to teach them how to do with His Royal Highness approaching. Do you bow, or what do the ladies do? They courtesy or what? All those things have to be trained. And if there is no experts to train them, well, write the manuals. Write a training manual to support. For you people leaving school this year, and the next year you might find yourself in those type of situations. That if they say, Mark, you'll be the assistant liaison officer to Mr. James, and you probably look out in China when the Chinese leader arrives. The first thing on your question now is how Bempla working. We officers should not just say, okay, but you may go, because your team leader may have his experience, but there are protocols in place when you're dealing with each country. For instance, with the Chinese, Mr. Aguirre would know when they exchange business cards, they exchange business cards with 2 hands. And when you accept it, you must accept it with 2 hands. And once you accept it, say thank you. Now check him name. Oh, Wang Xianshen. Nice to meet you. And file it away. That is the protocol one time of Chinese. Sabasol give me ulo tuplahan, you just put him. You've insulted them. Because the reason why they were giving a business card is they want to have a relationship with you. That's why they're giving a business card with all their contact name, contact number, and email. You keep him. And the least you can do is accept it like that. Read him name, say nice to meet you, and put him. It's done. When you go to the Westerns, these are my business card, bang and throw me. That's my card. Have a look at it and contact me. You see? So culture, there is the question of culture, which we Papuans must learn from. Or you go to the Indonesians and they don't eat with when they eat with their fingers. They don't. I think they don't use left hand. They don't use one of the hands, because one of the hands also use him lo houseman lo restroom. Time go sit down lo really be more. So those are some of the things which must be written in books, so that generations after generations must have a read of them before they go into play. You must use some training manual before you run on to play. It was very discouraging and disappointing too. I mean, people told me on the streets. But okay, mi plaka mo sem na online look memo all sumatine mo kam sanap na all just sanap so na talk hello lol man anybody who was walking through they were just saying hello and all that na they will not be accorded. No, we must know that some diplomats are very, very thorough about their titles. Some like to refer to themselves as ambassador, doctor, someone. And if you suppose mention him good, then complain law, listen of blame now. Hey, those people, did you teach them? And then it bodes badly on us. So those are the lessons which our PNG future leaders must learn, which is what I'm saying. Look at the experiences, but there must be manuals and written game plans on hand for us to use and fall back upon. We cannot work along on experience. Some departments continue to still play their all hands, who time has passed them by, but they continue to play. And these are some of these all hands do not want to build capacity of the younger one. So this like young plaman or Mary round time is like all hand round nothing and no got information passed back and forth. Or when you go to bilateral meetings. When you go into bilateral meetings, like I've mentioned, when you go into bilateral meetings, you know where to sit. You know that those notes been taken. Those notes been taken would be action. And I am very, very interested in the bilateral outcomes of the 7, 8, 9, or 10 bilaterals that were held by our PM with his counterparts. Because in those pilots, obviously the other side would have said, it's your 50th anniversary. How can we help? I'm just assuming. I wasn't there. I'm just assuming. It's a birthday. What would you like for present? But I'd like to build my agriculture capacity. All right, look, we can work on that. Now the person taking the note has noted that. This is the most important part now, because the political engagement has ended. Once Narpa Trometotok, Narpa accept him, and finish. The work now starts with the person taking the note. Look, come out after that meeting and write that memo under the letterhead of his or her departmental head to the Department of Agriculture. Example, we still using that example, telling them that during PM's meeting with country X, they mentioned agriculture, and this country is now willing to assist on this thing. So it is very important that you plumbers, you may boom now, you may kick him off this process, so that this assistance or technical cooperation, something must come. Hurry up. If that doesn't happen, that pilot was a wasted effort. Because our leaders went forth, organized those pilots, brought in their counterparts, ensured that bilateral relations and assistance were offered and accepted, and we didn't do the follow-up accordingly at the background. So those are the lessons which I think we should learn on them before going forward. I'll stop there.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ako.
Okay,
Now moving on to
just one. I think I see Mr. Egior as the Chinese envoy in the second row, away from the PM, and he was complaining. I heard that too, but then when I sat down properly and looked at it, I think the Chinese envoy was a minister, while Albanese and them were PM level. That's why the PM level sat with PM, and the ministers were sat at tables with other PNG ministers. That's how I thought about it. But of course, I am too Mangi Jungoya. He came with big hopes, so yeah. So sorry, Mac, go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ako, for answering the question. So now moving on to PNG Connect, introduced by Peter O'Neill and Foreign Minister Rimbik Pato. I have 3 questions and 3 comments. So I'll go with the comment first, and then I can ask the questions. So firstly, I found it fascinating. Now, like PNG Connect was framed as a way to link foreign policy directly with development priorities, especially through infrastructure. That's the first comment. Second comment, in the PNG Connect, so the emphasis on like balancing traditional ties with Australia and newer relation with China and Asia reflects the reality of Papua New Guinea strategic position in the Pacific. Now, to my third comment on PNG Connect, like when hosting the APEC 2018 was a bold move that definitely elevate Papua New Guinea like visibility, but it also showed how costly global diplomacy can be for small state like Papua New Guinea. Now to my question. First question, how did PNG Connect policy reshape PNG diplomatic identity compared to earlier strategies like PAS-20 Look North policy? Second question, to what extent did Papua New Guinea successfully balance its reliance on traditional partners with its pursuit of new relationship under PNG Connect? And to my third and final question, what role did the hosting of APEC 2018 play in advancing the objective of Papua New Guinea Connect policy, and what limitations did it expose?
Okay, we'll leave a third question first, because by the time you finish answering it, asking it, I was still writing question number 2. So I'll answer the first 2, and then I'll ask you again to repeat the question number 3. Okay, so question number 1: how did PNG Connect reshape PNG's diplomatic identity? So PM, then Prime Minister O'Neill and Foreign Minister Rimbik Pato, their tenure in office pretty much covered the preparations leading up to APEC 2018. So all their bilateral meetings they attended, both domestically or internationally, was all about generating support for APEC 2018 and telling their partners that the PNG was open for business and you should come and invest as we prepare to host APEC 2018. So it, from the way I saw it, it added onto the look not policy, later on the look not and work the Pacific policy on bringing in all our partners together under the banner of APEC 2018. It also enabled on the look not and work the Pacific. It enabled the Prime Minister O'Neill to invite the Pacific Island leaders to come and attend and participate in our APEC 2018 gig. Okay. Now that was another diplomatic exercise on its own, because out of those Pacific Island leaders, we had to decide which ones were the ones supporting the One China policy and which ones were supporting Taiwan as a national, as a sovereign entity. Now that particular year, it was also a very interesting year for the PIF, because I think Nauru was chair. Nauru or Niue? Nauru, I think Nauru was chair, and the chair was supporting was a supporter of Taiwan. So what Prime Minister O'Neill did, he said, okay, we won't invite the chair, but we will invite the Samoan PM as an elder statesman of the Pacific to come and chair the APEC PIF PIC leaders dialogue. So that's how it did it. So PNG Connect enabled us to pull in our strengthen our engagements towards APEC 2018 by bringing in all our Pacific Island leaders, also the APEC membership leaders to come in. Now, on question number 2, to what extent did PNG balance its relations with traditional partners and with traditional and bilateral partners? It's still during that time, during the PNG Connect time. So again, everything which the government was doing now was based on APEC 2018. Everywhere the ministers went. So what we did was we ensured that all the ministers started attending their ministerial engagements wherever they were. 2013, Indonesia hosted. 2014, China hosted. 2015, the Philippines hosted. 2016, Chile hosted. 2017, Vietnam hosted, and us. So all those hosts had ministerial meetings. And we encourage our ministers to attend just to make sure that they had the necessary warm-up and practice in preparation for our own host. So that balanced up our bilateral engagement, because now we were showing the world that our ministers were attending meetings, and not only that, we held warm-up ministerial meetings here also. The first ever APEC ministerial meeting PNG ever hosted was in 2014, I think, was in 2014. It was the forestry ministers meeting, and the PNG Forestry Authority were the ones behind it, who went about organizing it, and the PNG policy teams helped them write up the policy agenda and all that. And even Mr. The old boss, my apologies, with respect to him, I can't place his name at the moment, but he went up to the Philippines it was in 2015. He went up to the Philippines to pitch why PNG was ready to host the foreign ministers meeting. Further to balance in that, we also successfully negotiated for and got the Philippines to help them host 2 of their high-level meetings in Papua New Guinea. So it was the Women in Economic Summit and the high-level policy dialogue on human resource and management. So that was the way we were balancing our bilateral relations with our traditional partners and all that. And the traditional partners were all involved in that exercise, and they went about supporting us through acting as go-betweens to support our policy undertakings and all the other engagements we plan on doing in preparation for hosting APEC 2018. Okay. Now Mike, I have to ask you again to repeat the question number 3.
All right, Mr. So the last and final question: what role did the hosting of APEC 2018 play in advancing the objectives of Papua New Guinea Connect policy, and what limitation did it expose?
What role did the hosting of APEC 2018 in advancing the Connect PNG, and what limitation did it expose? Okay, the role it played in advancing Connect PNG was that it brought in APEC 2018 enabled us to bring in all the brains of the Asia Pacific region to Papua New Guinea. We wrote 139 meeting documents, and these 139 meeting documents were contributed by the National Trade Office, by PNG Customs, by Department of Agriculture, by NACIA, by Department of Health, Forestry, IPA. They all contributed all those ideas based on our needs. And this is very important. I want you all to listen to this very carefully. In 2018, we hosted more than 240 meetings. Those 240 meetings were based on our APEC 2018 theme of connectivity and structural reform, regional economic integration, all to support the development of Papua New Guinea. So we brought in the World Bank, we brought in Google, we brought in most of the business big boys then to come and talk about how they could help us advance our APEC 2018 agenda and theme. All that happened, and the limitations is exposed was the fact that most departments just completed supporting the hosting, and when we started talking about the domesticating the APEC outcomes, they went back into their own silos. So those were the limitations posed by the departments. The APEC, the PNG's foreign policy on APEC, with its roadmap, with its vehicle, the roadmap was the vehicle to drive the implementation and domestication of those outcomes. Where was not looking back, it was not really supported by all the departments, because all the departments went back to APEC 2018 finish. Now we go back lo working work lo government working work, but that was work lo government. So those are the limitations we found out. These limitations were brought on by the fact that most of our bureaucrats saw APEC not as a policy agenda, but as a logistics activity that once it was completed, it was done. Now, the pluses of it was shown this weekend during the hosting of all our leaders in Port Moresby, where nearly all the liaison officers, the team leaders of the liaison officers, came under the team leadership of Julie Wapo. Julie Wapo was one of the directors of APEC 2018, and she organized all the liaison work, all the bilateral work. So that has provided the pluses, but the main limitations we had was the fact that we could not domesticate. Sorry, let me rephrase. The limitations we had was that we were very, very slow in domesticating it. So now, 2018, now it's 2025, it's 7 years on. 7 years on, and next year will be 2020. In a couple of years' time, will be 2020. It will be 10 years since we hosted APEC. If we do a review, what have the outcomes, major outcomes of APEC 2018? What are the major outcomes and the major advantages of APEC 2018 we are seeing now? First one, I will say that Stephen Matainaho's, Secretary Stephen Matainaho's Department of ICT has gone in leaps and bounds to make ICT in PNG more available to everyone, and that came out as one of the outcomes of APEC 2018. You will note from his policies that he has made reference to the APEC 2018 outcomes. Another one would be the electronic e-single window initiative, now being driven by PNG Customs. Yes, the single window is still an ongoing issue by our economy. Others have graduated onto other platforms, but it is still an initiative which can enable all the departments, all the exporting departments to come in together under one umbrella to make sure that the customs clearances and the turnaround time of their containers and export items are done more efficiently, so that investments can keep on rolling in and out. So APEC 2018 was Papua New Guinea's biggest ever foreign policy exercise. And I always call it Papua New Guinea's biggest ever capacity building exercise since World War II. You see, when war came to Papua New Guinea in 1942, it enabled capacity building and knowledge transfer to happen at a faster rate like this. It enabled our people to learn how to cook, how to read maps, how to do parades, how to march, how to how to be soldiers. It enabled the advancement of the PNG Defense Force to what it is now. You fast forward it all the way to APEC 2018. APEC 2018 brought in over 300 officials under one roof. It will be more than that, covering the logistics and the security aspect of it. But it showed everyone that PNG is able to play the game internationally. And when you look back, when you do a review of the number of international engagements between 1975 and 2018, it will be like this. Then once it comes to 2018, it goes up like this. You will notice that since 2018, it would seem that every year we seem to be hosting one or two international engagements every year. And that is a plus for us, because it is showing the world that we have the infrastructure to host it. We have the policy know-how to support the policy integration of that meeting. We have the security available now because APEC 2018 enabled our security agencies to talk with all our development partners who came in to support: the Americans, the Australians, the Kiwis, the Indonesians, Malaysians, they all Filipinos, they all came to support us, the Japanese, in our hosting engagement. So APEC 2018 provided that capacity to happen. All right. I hope that answers your question, Mark.
Yes, thank you, Mr. for your responses to my questions and a insightful explanation to my questions. And thank you guys for your patience. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mac, and thank you, Mr. Ako. We move on to Jerome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Ebora and Mr. Ako. And not forgetting our host, good afternoon as well. I have 3 questions and 3 comments regarding the topic 8, PNG Connect in a globalized world, and 2 comments and 2 questions regarding the 27 policy review. A total of 5 questions and 5 comments. So I'll be starting with my comments regarding the PNC Connect in a globalized world. So my first comment is the PNC Connect foreign policy emphasizes a strategic shift toward diversifying international partnerships, aiming to reduce our reliance on traditional allies and enhance PNG's diplomatic and economic resilience in a rapidly globalizing world. And it reflects Papua New Guinea's strategic effort to diversify its international partnership in response to the realities of a rapidly globalizing world. And by by reducing reliance on traditional allies and expanding its diplomatic and economic relationships with a broader range of countries and organizations. So this approach enhance a country's ability to navigate complex international dynamics, ensuring greater stability and opportunities for growth in an interconnected world. So that is my first comment. And moving on to the second comment. So I think that by prioritizing infrastructure, connectivity, and economic diplomacy in the PNG Connect in a globalized world, under this policy, it sought to position itself as an effective participant in regional and global affairs, leveraging opportunities from Asia and the Pacific and beyond. Moving on to my third comment, the policies focus on balancing traditional bilateral ties with emerging strategic relationships, uh, which reflects a nuanced approach to navigating geopolitical tensions and fostering development through diversified diplomacy. So, uh, comparing the past prime ministers and now, there are many criticisms regarding uh, Pitaunal and James Marathe, and because of Pitaunal, now we see that they call him as the father of infrastructure, and I think that through that policy, he was able enough to build many infrastructures during his time. So that is my three comments regarding topic 8. And moving on to the three questions regarding PNC Connect in a globalized world. So my first question reads, what were the main strategies employed by PNC under the PNC Connect policy to strengthen its economic diplomacy and infrastructure connectivity with international partners? That is my first question. And the second question is, how did the PNC Connect approach aim to fix PNC's foreign policy to accommodate the rising influence of China and other Asian powers while maintaining traditional relationships? That is my second question. And the third question is, in what ways did the policy address potential challenges of balancing strategic alliances with regional neighbors and global powers amidst geopolitical competition? So that is the three questions regarding the topic 8, PNG Connect in a globalized world. Okay.
Thanks, Jerome. For question 2 and 3, you will have to repeat because I didn't get them, but it's okay. We do question 1 first. What were the main strategies employed by PNG with its international partners during the PNG Connect? Am I right?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the main strategies which PNG employed during the time was encompassed by APEC 2018 in the decade. The decade coming up, it was all about APEC 2018. Even when the PNG Connect idea came up in 2016, 2017, it was overshadowed by APEC 2018. So everywhere, both Prime Minister O'Neill, then Prime Minister O'Neill, and then Foreign Minister Pato and Trade Minister Maru were going. It was all about APEC 2018, and they used the APEC 2018 bandwagon to drive PNG's development agenda forward. Okay, so that's how I saw it from where I was then, because we note from our own presentations a couple of weeks ago on the new foreign policy intent in 2017 after the reviews and the objectives and what, but they were all overshadowed by the APEC 2018 agenda. Okay. Now on question number 2, can you repeat? How did PNG Connect? I did not get the rest.
My second question is, how did the PNG Connect approach aim to fix PNG's foreign policy to accommodate the rising influence of China and other Asian powers while maintaining traditional relationships?
This is interesting because the PNG Connect approach was, if I could, for want of a better word, superseded into the APEC 2018 agenda, and which was a good thing, you see, because the APEC 2018 agenda and the progress by Papua New Guinea towards APEC 2018 from 2013, 2014 onwards enabled it sort of streamlined or focused all Papua New Guinea's international relations dealings towards APEC 2018. So everywhere PNG officials were going, they excuse me, if they were meeting with APEC member economies, it was always 2018 at the background, 2018 at the background. So everything they talked about, if it was the military or the police or the security agencies, everything they talked about, they would all talk about the level of security that would be required for leaders, and if so, what would be required. If it was logistics, what would be required, you know. For instance, when I was approached by an economy who was so concerned about security. You know, when I was approached by an economy, and the economy told me that, you know, if you don't get your security arrangements organized properly, our leader won't come. And I told him, well, that's your choice, because according to our Melanesian customs and tradition, that table over there is for the leaders. And if your leader doesn't come and he sends his driver or T-boy, we will still accord him leader status. He will come, we will escort him, he will sit on that chair, representing you. That is our culture. So whoever comes will sit at that high table as a leader. And that sort of nullified any concerns with regards to security, because I was practically telling them that, listen, whoever is coming, we will regard him as a leader, and the security will be at the apex standard level. And anyway, suppose you concern safety blue, leader blue, help me plan. No, provide technical cooperation and assistance to lift our security capability to satisfy your requirements. When it in terms of you know, we're talking about the strategy. So in terms of logistics, in 2012, 2012, 2013, when we were holding our initial workshop, there was no APEC House, there was no ICC, there was no Hilton, there was no Stanley. There were none of this. So you can imagine us trying to convince the others that it will happen, just support us, and they're saying, you are saying it will happen, but when I'm looking around, there's nothing. So the credit for that must go to our ministers, because they were the ones who pushed that agenda at their level, and because that push was coming from the prime minister and the foreign minister and the trade minister. They were taken they were taken at their words. Them through PNG, but working on there's something we're talking about. If it was people at our lowly levels talking about building a meeting venue or building this or building this road, we would not have been believed. But if it was coming from the PM and the leaders themselves, it was believed. And the embassies in Port Moresby were the ones who were briefing their headquarters, telling them that yes, Emol talk to right now, I'm working on now, looking for something, or cabinet instructions come out, or working for something. So those were done, So when we say that the PNG Connect approach to fix PNG's foreign policy to accommodate China's rising influence in the country, that was done by the Chinese themselves. You see, in 2015, excuse me, Xi Jinping became the first ever APEC leader to inform the host 3 to 4 years in advance that he would be attending. He would be attending the APEC leaders meeting. See, these are some of the diplomatic not initiative, but the diplomatic plays which affects our international relations. You see, in answer to your question, in 2015, China themselves did it. Once Xi Jinping announced publicly that he would be attending APEC 2018 3 years in advance, that I'm talking there, it confirmed to all the other economists that, well, big man lo China talk by go molene ba who's true. That was one. It enabled that to happen, to get support for APEC 2018 host. And another big drive to help us support our foreign policy initiative to accommodate our traditional partners in our international relations discussions was the fact that the PNG APEC team fought hard to get the PNG to host APEC in 2018 in the 2014 Leaders Declaration. So in the APEC Leaders Declaration of 2013 in Bali, it only said, we note, in the Leaders Declaration, it only said, leaders note the hosting of PNG along the way. Yeah? But in 2014, we made sure that we were successful in having it listed on the Leaders Declaration, saying that, and we look forward to PNG's host in 2018, Chile in 2019, Malaysia in 2020, New Zealand. It was all a list, so it was endorsed. So there was no way people would, PNG was not going to host. And even despite those confirmations, there were still economists mumbling around at the back saying that they can host this, they can host this. You look at, I had a bump-in with another economy here at the yacht club, sometimes in 2016, I think. I won't name the economy, but this economy came and said, Lawi, we are very concerned that you will not be able to host this thing. And just when I was about to argue our case, Foreign Minister Pato walked past. So I turned around and I said, inside women, you like challenging me, you stand up and answer question now. So I turned around and said, "Hey, Minister Pato, good afternoon. Please, so come and meet our colleague from this economy." You could visibly look him face below manner change because he knew what was coming. So when Foreign Minister Pato came and stood beside me, I introduced the both of them and I said, Minister, our colleague has some concerns regarding our upcoming host. Me talk to him straight. So again, straight from the Foreign Minister mouth, look, in talk pigeon, in our talk pigeon situation, I would translate as, hey, relax, something but come up, use a support us all. So those are some of the ways each of the players involved in APEC 2018 moved to ensure that APEC 2018 happened, and it was moving fast but cautiously, making sure that we were playing by the rules. No got high tackle, no got spear tackle, no got red card, no got back shuttle referee. We just played by the rules, but hard, and aggressive and fair. Okay. So question number 3, in what ways did the PNG Connect address the strategic alliances in the geopolitics? I think I answered part of that, but it also addressed it in a different way. Every time between 2014, 2015, and 2016, when Prime Minister O'Neill or Foreign Minister Pato or then Trade Minister Maru would go and have their bilaterals with their counterparts on the margins of the APEC meeting, they would invite them to come to Papua New Guinea. So that is something I found on face value, you would look at it as a normal invite. Come to my house for dinner. So you can come up with an excuse or not, but in international relations and in diplomacy, ambig pa something eh. Because me invite him pinis na suppose come. No can talk lo country blooming because invitation blooming sana piet na you no come visit him yet na even outside it you talk lo me plus. So some of those invitations are still outstanding. Some of those invitations which I set in the bylaws and were invited, they're still outstanding. Those colleagues have not come, maybe because they've gone out of government or they're no longer in government, but those invitations stand, you see. So once you make a commitment to invite, and then you make a commitment to say, yes, I will come, now come. That puts you, it gives us the added advantage of saying that, listen, without domestic affairs, no can talk because you never came to see us. You don't talk about what's happening in my house because when I invited you to come and see, look around the house, you come. So, those were some of the ways our leaders in particular address our strategic alliances in geopolitics. We invited them to come, they came. People like Inlak Shinawatra, the former Prime Minister lady of Thailand, Foreign Minister of New Zealand, Foreign Minister of Australia. They were all invited during APEC 2012 to come and visit Papua New Guinea and see for themselves our capability to host. I mean, they came and they offered support. One of the supports I can remember which Madam Prime Minister Inglak Shinawatra offered was for PNG to set up an embassy in Thailand. And same also for Vietnam, I think, which we haven't taken action on yet. Okay, so I hope, Jerome, that I answered those questions.
Yes. Thank you for the answers. And I also have 2 comments and 2 questions regarding topic 9, which is Papua New Guinea's Foreign Policy Review 2017. So my first comment for the Papua New Guinea's Foreign Policy Review is I understand the strategic assessment aimed at realigning and strengthening the policies, countries' international relations to better serve its national interest. But I also think that Papua New Guinea does not have a publicly available formal national interest white paper like Australia. And because PNC has various policy documents and the strategic plans and frameworks that guide its national development and foreign relations, such as the National Strategy for Development and the Foreign Policy Statement. Uh, but I think that if there is no white paper regarding security and economy and all this, or if there was a completely missed it, we still have to search and find out. But that's my opinion towards the national interest of PNG. And my second comment is I the review analyzed PNG's existing diplomatic engagement, regional and global partnerships, and identified some priorities for the country's foreign policy moving forward. And one area that I it stood out for me is the economic diplomacy, which recognizing the importance of foreign investment and aid. The policy prioritized attracting development through diplomatic means, including fostering trade relationships and participating in national projects. So that is my two comments. And moving on to the two questions, final questions. Now, what were the main drivers behind the PNC's foreign policy changes in 2017? And my second question is, how did the PNC's foreign policy in 2017 influence its relationship with the neighboring countries like Australia? Thank you. That's my two questions.
Jerome, on question one, did you say that who were the writers of the 2017 foreign policy?
No, my question is, what were the main drivers behind the
Where
PNG's foreign policy changes?
Okay, the I think the main drivers were the intentions to review that foreign policy. When you look at the history of foreign policy during that time, in 2009, Abal did a review. Abal did a review when 9, 7, 8, 9, and then he got we got the department got Sir Robert Tigara, now Sir Robert Tigara and Dr. Kwa to write it up, which they did, but it never went to cabinet and parliament. So that remained hanging over our heads until 2015, 2016, when under acting secretary Dim, he said, okay, everybody come in to do a review again. So the mission, head of missions came and throughout the world, they did the review, and then in 2017, that was the outcome. So the idea, I sat in, I did the APEC presentation during that time, and they were all receptive to their idea of hosting, but I guess most of them were still looking at where APEC fitted into the whole scheme of things, and whether or not it was going to happen. Because note that all these esteemed people who were calling to do the foreign policy review had never played any role in hosting APEC. One or two of them were with Sir John Caputin and Dame Meg Taylor when they went to the US in 1993 to lobby for us to become a member of APEC. But apart from that, none were really aware of what was involved in hosting APEC. Nearly most of them had attended APEC meetings, but we wouldn't know the actual extreme of how hard people went to organize the APEC 2018. So when the review was completed, part of it, part of the idea was for, also, no, let me, when the review was completed, Acting Secretary Deem was replaced by Foreign Secretary Barbara Age. And by the time Foreign Secretary Barbara Age took over as head of the Department of Foreign Affairs, we were all now preparing, all focus were all now on April 2018. So they were all involved in the policy agenda and the convening of the bilaterals and all that. So the main drivers of the, in answer of your first number one question, the main drivers of PNG's foreign policy in 2017 was based on the review, the completion of the reviews done maybe a year earlier, a decade earlier, to make it happen. But then, like I said, as they were planning on making it happen, April 2018 was hovering in the air. And most of them had never played, all of us had never played host to APEC. So that sort of took precedence, and even cabinet instructed all the departments that concentration now, but start APEC 2018, support the teams that are doing it, and let's pull this through. So that overshadowed the whatever intent the Department of Foreign Affairs had on doing the reviews. Now, on question number 2, so you have to ask it again, please.
My second question is, how did PNG's foreign policy review in 2017 influences its relationship with neighboring countries like Australia?
It didn't. Because that foreign policy review had nothing to do with APEC 2018. And all our bilateral partners, especially those who are APEC member economies, were all working towards supporting PNG host APEC 2018. In 2017, Australia provided spaces for 52, but then later 51 of the teams, of members of my team. So 26 went to the University of Queensland and 26 went to the Adelaide University. So the ones who went to Brisbane, the University of Queensland, they went to get a graduate diploma in international relations to support our policy initiatives. So they were the B team, and the A team went to Adelaide University to get an advanced diploma in trade. So when Prime Minister O'Neill asked me why A and B, I said, no, Prime Minister, A stands for Adelaide, B stands for Brisbane. So the Adelaide team, Brisbane team, so they were called A and B team. So these people returned back from Australia, and they became part of the SOM Chair's office and part of my inner team, and they were involved in drafting the Leaders' Declaration for 2018. So that was one way PNG's hosting of APEC influenced its relationship with countries like Australia. So they covered the agenda item on regional economic integration and connectivity. Now, in terms of and also structural reform. Now, in terms of connectivity, Japan assisted with that. Japan in 2014 started. We had an arrangement with them. So in 2014, we started sending 2 to 4 officers every year or every 6 months to attend JICA programs that dealt with emergency preparedness, natural disaster, all that space. They were going until 2018. So Japan supported the PNG policy drive through that. It was nothing to do with the foreign policy. Everything had to do with APEC 2018 and the agenda we set up based on that. People can dispute me on that. Others may dispute me on that, but then from 2013 right up to 2018 and 2019, the Papua New Guinea's foreign policy was APEC 2018. Papua New Guinea's foreign policy was built around our hosting of APEC. Any bilateral negotiations or technical cooperation, excuse me, arrangements we secured from our bilateral partners was based on supporting PNG's capability in hosting APEC in 2018. Okay.
Thank you. That's all for me, and apologies if I take too much time. But yes, thank you for the answers.
Thank you, Jerome. Thank you, Mr. Ako. We move on to Tess.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Yagira, Mr. Ako, and friends. So I will begin with my comments and questions. I have 2 comments and 3 questions. So my first comment is on the foreign policy review of 2017, the presentation last week. So in the presentation, one of the slides mentioned lack of funding as a factor affecting foreign policy review. So I've read an article by Rose Ottman on how when there was lack of funding, foreign aid was a particular factor that helped to ensure that foreign policy reviews for developing countries occurred. And so in a statement that was made by one of the authors, Martinez 2016, he mentioned that long-term national interests are usually at the core of given international development agendas. And although states may choose to disguise integration and alliance aspirations with altruistic discourses, a diplomatic perspective that reveals that they mainly use aid as a means of implementing foreign policy goals. And so based on this statement, it can be quite clear that at the beginning of PNG's foreign policy implementation, the country at some point did depend on foreign aid to execute its plans within the foreign policies. Therefore, even though lack of funding may have been a setback, this factor was used by countries who shared bilateral and multilateral relations with PNG to foster their strategic interest and regain support from PNG. So that's on my first comment. And onto my second comment, still on the foreign policy review. So PNG's foreign policy review indicated PNG's journey of foreign policy development from its bilateral relations with Australia as its traditional partner to exploring its relations with the Asian region, more so China. And this demonstrates how PNG aims to move forward in securing its national interest at the regional and international level. So during the foreign policy review in PNG, it reaffirmed the key pillars as stated in the presentation on neighborly cooperation, strengthening existing partnerships, and diversifying partnerships for mutual benefit. Therefore, the review emphasized the need to diversify partnerships, and this could include China as well as other multilateral institutions. And in this way, it avoided dependence on Australia as its traditional partner in aid. So in this way, during the foreign policy review, foreign aid could have been seen as an opportunity for development for PNG, and it could also be used or looked at carefully in managing. So in that way, it preserves PNG's policy independence, as well as it aligns with PNG's national priorities. That's on my second comment. On to my 3 questions. So my first question is regarding the corporate plan of 2018 to 2022. So my question is the corporate plan continuously being reviewed every 5 years? And if it is, how does it identify, or how are the objectives achieved in that particular corporate plan of 2018 to 2022? That's the first question. On to the second question. Which objective covers national security, and how does the corporate plan aim to achieve that particular objective? And my third question is, will the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade corporate plan be aligned with the white paper that will be released soon. Thank you.
Yes, I'm smiling because I really don't have any idea on the Foreign Affairs Corporate Plan and whether it's been implemented or how it's been aligned to the foreign policy. Because the only time I saw that corporate plan was during the 2017 review that came out, and then beyond that, I am not aware of whether it's been implemented to complement the foreign policies intents. Sorry, I'm very truthful in that.
That is fine, Mr. Ako.
But I will do some digging, and when we meet again in Sunday, I think I'll try to find something from it. Sorry about that, Tess.
Tess, entah soal.
Yes, those are my three questions. And the second question, will Mr. Ako still won't be able to answer it on the objectives?
Yes, because it also covers the corporate plan.
All right.
So until we find out from current 7 members whether that corporate plan is being implemented, and we can build on to your the objectives and the others. Sorry about that.
All right. That's fine. Thank you.
And thank you, Tess. We move on to Irene.
Thank you, Mr. Yagira and Mr. Ako, and good afternoon, everyone. So I have 3 questions and 5 comments to make, but all my questions and comments are on the topic Foreign Policy Review 2017. So moving on to my first comment. So in my opinion, Papua New Guinea's choice to support the One China policy is a careful decision that brings both benefits and challenges. So by recognizing China's claim over Taiwan, PNG can receive economic help, investments, and trade opportunities from China, which is very important for its development. To my second comment, so while China's economic involvement presents development opportunity, it also raises questions about transparency, debt risks, and political influence. So my third comment, when governments organizations review their policies, they shouldn't just repeat what they believe in or say what's important to them. They also need to come up with real practical plans to make things better. So these plans could include specific steps that people can follow, and there should be a way to track who is responsible for doing what. To my fourth comment, the call to review the experiences of the past 2 decades as per one of the slide during Mr. Ako's presentation, I believe is very crucial. So PNG has faced various challenges and opportunities in its foreign relations, and reflecting on this can help shape smarter strategies for the nation moving forward. So my fifth comment, Papua New Guinea's main challenge is finding the right balance in its foreign relations. So China offers big opportunities to trade, infrastructure, and investment, but relying too much on it could create debt problems or reduce Papua New Guinea's sovereignty. So that is all for my comments. So moving on to my questions. My first question is, how has Fiji's traditional role as regional leader constrained Papua New Guinea's influence in the Pacific?
Irene will answer your questions one after you want to list down all the questions, so I'll answer this one and you go on to the next one.
Well, which will be suitable for you? Should I go one by one or?
No, I think it's better we go one by one. Let me
Okay.
let me answer this one before we go to the others, because previously Olmangi firing machine gun gone. I couldn't write down the questions as fast as they were going. So okay, now question number one. Repeat. It's about the how effective the Fijians are more than us, or
Yes. How is the Fiji's traditional role as regional leader constrained Papua New Guinea's influence in the Pacific?
yeah. They have advantages on that, and they're using it to the fullest extent. Their main advantage, I think main and biggest advantage is the fact that the PIF secretariat is headquartered there. So anything to do with the region, it goes there, and obviously they get to know about them first before we get wind of them. So that's one. And on the other side of the scale is the fact that they came up with the Pacific Development Forum. I think is it called the Pacific Development Forum when they were what's the word to use here, when they were not part of the PIF during the coup years. So to them, when they came up with the development forum, it was still business as usual. They continued to have a development partners discussing this with them, and they went on. So that is the advantage they have of us. And also, I think the other advantage they have in the region, not against Papua New Guinea, but in the region, is the fact that they speak one language. Okay, they might have different dialects, but they speak one language. They speak Fijian, so that's an advantage they have. In our case, it's Pidgin. I guess when it comes to trying to get messages across quietly during bilateral meetings, so what we use Pidgin, or if it is between Motu and speakers, they use Motu. Sa sila using English, and more by understanding too. Sometimes planting blows are Pidgin now, so they can understand it. So I think I see that those are the biggest advantages, and this is supported by the fact that they have a small foreign service. So I guess the how do you say, I guess the understanding of lean, mean, and fast, lean, mean, and what works well with them because they have a small foreign service. They can easily maneuver and move on positions. For us, we have a big foreign service, and we do things differently. Okay, so those are the advantages I see with them, and they also, the ratio of Fijian foreign service officers with Australian schooling background is more than ours, I think, and that is also supported by the Fijian diaspora in Australia. See, so that goes into another ball game altogether. When we start talking about sports diplomacy, they will beat us hands down. Okay, because those Fijians we see run around in the Wallabies jerseys, or in Super 15 rugby jerseys sides, in addition to their league contingent supports them in that. So they those are the advantages they have, and we know those advantages, and they are there. These are not hidden advantages. So it's really up to us to strengthen our own systems and move forward to play on an equal footing. Okay, Irene?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Ako. So moving on to my second question. So could Papua New Guinea adopt new strategies to reassert itself as the big brother in the Pacific despite Fiji's institutional and diplomatic advantages?
Yes, it should adopt new strategies. It should adopt new strategies, and one of, I think, it should work towards having more equal participation at the PIF management structure. When you look at the PIF management senior management structure, you might be lucky to see one Papua New Guinean in there. Most of it is either Australian, New Zealand, or Fijian, Polynesian. Most of the Papua New Guineans who are serving in the PIF are at the desk officer level or just below the director's level. So that's one way we should be pushing to ensure that there is equilibrium in Pacific diplomacy. And there plenty way stuff to do that. It needs political will, and it needs good strategic planning to make that happen.
Thank you, Mr. Ako. So moving on to my third and final question. So what prevented the Foreign Services from acting on Secretary Dim's hint for a future white paper? And what does this say about institutional leadership at that time?
Yeah, unfortunately, for the Foreign Service, by the time those outcomes were being provided for public consumption, APEC 2018 was in motion. And as soon as APEC 2018 ended, a year later, all those things became history, including the corporate plan. I mentioned in one of my talks earlier on, a couple of weeks ago, was that they mentioned the corporate plan, but they in only one page they mentioned the KPIs and all those activities tools and activities that make up a corporate plan. So I'm not sure whether going back to the idea of the corporate plan, whether it was actually completed and whether it was implemented.
Irene, please go ahead and complete your question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yeager. So moving on to my fourth question. So what specific outcomes or actions were expected under the neighborly cooperation and building partnership pillars, and how could they have strengthened PNG's role in regional and global affairs?
Sorry, Irene, could you repeat that the question again?
What specific outcomes or actions were expected under the neighborly cooperation and building partnership pillars, and how could they have strengthened PNG's role in regional and global affairs?
I think it was actually meant on what I mentioned earlier on having equal participation in regional organizations where we had a bigger say in, but we were sort of I don't know whether we have enough Papua New Guineans vying for positions in them, and then some of the outcomes in terms of regional participation and good governance also covered our building of our skills in those areas. We are still to have foreign service officers specializing in particular skilled in particular areas. Right now, nearly all our foreign service officers are all rounders. we don't have foreign service officers who are, say, China specialists or specialists in PNG Australia bilateral or specialists in the Pacific region. So those are some of the outcomes I think the 2017 strategic intent was based on. And it covers a lot of variables also. When we are talking about specific outcomes, do we have our programs or our institutions specially made or ready to train people to work towards having these outcomes, coming up with the capabilities of these outcomes? Suppose no, then you see it immediately multiplies that issue into 2 or 3 objectives. Okay, and I was discussing it with some experts, and including me. We were of the opinion that the 2017 review was a light in the tunnel. If they had brought it across, into post APEC 2018, it would have and aligned with the 2018 outcomes and roadmap implementation. It would have changed the course of international relations on our part. So when we look back, say 8 years ago, when that foreign policy review happened and the outcomes, and then you fast forward 8 years, and now we have another review, and now we are on the verge of having a new foreign policy white paper. It puts much question on our ability to come up with policy papers. You look at the amount of time and energy, not forgetting funding expedited on having those things ready and done, and then they're put on the side, and then now we have another one, and we don't know when it's going to be launched. The foreign policy white paper was set to be launched on our Independence Day, and it's now the 19th, and we're 2 days beyond our date. That hasn't been done yet, and I'm hopeful that something good will happen next week, and it will be launched, or it can give us some direction. Because both Mr. Aguirre and I and the other members of the teams are also looking forward to having that to chart our programs going forward. Thank you, Irene.
All right, thank you, Mr. Ako. So to my 5th question, so could you elaborate or explain more on what a checkbook diplomacy is?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. What checkbook diplomacy is, you support us and we'll give you X number of funds to support your programs. So you support us in terms of the necessary votes we may need in the UN, or support to carry out a diplomatic arrangement, and suppose NOGA. So then that's when the other party says, okay, yep, put funding into our education program or what, and we'll come and support it. That's the simple answer to checkbook diplomacy. It is shrouded. It is shrouded by the fact that some money might exchange hands secretly. That we have to that has to be confirmed. But what it happens is that, if you want our vote, you fund this program for us. And then so the person holding the hand pouch does that, and then you go and support it. And you look at the 1990s, the decade from 2001 to 2010, or maybe 2015, And in the Pacific Island context, the game between the People's Republic of China and the Republic of China, a lot of examples are there. And they I mean, we were the recipients. We, as in the Pacific Islanders, were the recipients of a lot of those funding. It changed lives in terms of roads and classrooms and all that. But at the high level, it was called checkbook diplomacy. And when people talk about checkbook diplomacy, they always area trouble, pinpoint goal or tupla line. But when you look at it properly, every other developed economy does that. Every other developed economy does that. No, you can't look far. You can't look far. You can't look far. Like tomorrow when you look at when you start watching the NRL finals, it's right there facing you. Checkbook diplomacy. And talk with him, Olsen.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Ako, for answering this question. Thank you, Mr. Yagura, for your time, and thank you to everyone. That's all for me.
All right, thank you, Irene. Jimmy, come now. Finish the meeting, Jimmy. Now we are running out of time. Unfortunately, the discussion is getting interesting, but our greatest enemy is time. Time is catching up with us. So we'll meet again on Sunday and we'll continue the discussion. We thank everyone for attending this particular session this afternoon to share your questions and make your comments. We thank Mr. Ako as well for his time, for committing himself to share his knowledge and insight with us. And we'll meet again on Sunday, but let's continue to keep the discussion going. A lot of things are happening in regard to foreign policy in PNG. And now we're in a very important moment in our history. We have the treaty going on, and then we have the British coming in, the Americans coming in, and there's a lot of things happening in our country. I think the Americans also, they did groundbreaking for the new fuel storage facility at Papa Lea. So we will see an increase in American investment in Port Moresby and in and around the country. So that's interesting. So all of you are privileged to be students of international relations and international politics. So you'll watch things unfold in our country as we go along. So thank you everyone, and we meet again on Sunday. And thank you for your time. Have a safe